Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Inside Genesee with Shayne Hodges. Today I have a very special guest to talk about situations in Flint. His name is Val Washington. He is a former circuit court judge. He's the attorney that is still fighting for the city in the water rate lawsuit. And thanks for coming today. It's always a pleasure. Yes, it's always a pleasure to see you and just get an update on what has been happening. For everyone who doesn't know, there is a current lawsuit.
There are two, actually.
Two lawsuits.
Yeah, what happened initially back in July 3rd of 2012, the first water rate lawsuit was filed in circuit court. I'm going to call that the Kincaid case.
Okay.
And that was making allegations about a 35% increase that happened on September 16th of 2011 for water and sewer rates. Now the significance of that is that according to the city ordinances, you can only raise water and sewer rates once a year, and then they stay in effect for 12 months.
Okay.
So anything that's done between, it starts on July 1st and it goes to June 30th of the next year. So anything that's not brought into being on July 1st should not come into being. So that was the basis of the Kincaid lawsuit. As we were waiting, and so instead of filing their answer, the city filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. And while we were waiting for the judge to decide that motion to dismiss, I learned some additional facts. I learned that the water service charge that we all pay, our bill has four parts to it.
Yeah.
Commodity charge for water, sewer, and then a service charge for sewer and a service charge for water. Well, I found out that the city ordinances required a rate table for both water and sewer. And so what's a rate table? Well, it's like, it depends on the size of the pipe you have in your house for sewer and for water. And so when you have, let's say, a 1-inch pipe for sewer, you could go down to the city, to the clerk's office and say, I want to see the rate table for a 1-inch pipe for a residential home. And you could look at it and it would tell you how much your service charge should be.
Okay.
They didn't have that for water. So we wanted to add that as a claim for the people in the lawsuit. Right. And so on December 28th of 2012, I filed a motion asking the court to be able to amend my complaint to add that additional count.
Okay.
And we then waited and waited. And finally on June 21st of 2013, the judge made a decision. He threw the case out and said, no, I'm not going to let you amend the lawsuit because amending it would be in conflict with my opinion. Well, right. I said, okay, and so I went to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals 2 years later, on June 11th, 2015, reversed the trial court, reversed that decision, throwing the case out, saying, no, the case should not have been thrown out, it should come back to circuit court, and by the way, your reason for not letting the plaintiffs amend the lawsuit is not provided for in the rules. And so you have to either say, yes, he can do it, or no, he can't, and then follow the rules, but you can't just say it's in conflict with your opinion. Right. So we came back to the circuit court in June of 15. In the meantime, a second case was filed, and that's called the Shears case.
Okay.
And the Shears case was kind of sitting, the batter's box, waiting to come up to bat, while the Kincaid case was being decided in the Court of Appeals. Once the Kincaid case was decided, the Shears case came up to bat, basically. Okay. And Judge Heyman said we will have a hearing on your request for a preliminary injunction. And so on August the 6th and August the 7th of 2015, we took testimony. And during that time, we had various witnesses come in and tell what they knew about all that was going on. And the judge issued, after that testimony, a preliminary injunction that stopped the city from collecting water and sewer rates that had that 35% increase involved in it, stopped them from collecting and charging the water service charge until they came into conformity with the ordinance that says you have to have a rate table. They didn't have the rate table. The judge says you can't collect the water service charge.
Right, and that's the time when they stopped. They stopped taking the money. No one got a bill for a month or two.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
It wasn't very long. And did they end up getting a rate table? Or?
What happened was that Gerald Ambrose, the last emergency manager, when he was leaving office on April 28th of 2015, unbeknownst to anybody,
Right.
he put into effect what's known as the master fee schedule. And that master fee schedule included in it the rate table for the water service charge as well as for the sewer. Now, I'm not saying it was right. And he certainly didn't have he didn't have a rate study done. He didn't look at terms of, and the service charge is supposed to cover things like operation, maintenance, administration, and debt service. He didn't do any analysis on that. He just plugged in a number and said, these are if you have this size pipe, this is what your service charge is. At my house, before I turn on the faucet or flush a toilet, I'm paying $130 a month in service charges.
Wow, it's same here. I have a huge bill.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. And during this time that this was happening, this is what happened to us as residents. They stopped charging the money. There was a large amount that was it was just there. They weren't going to collect it from you, but it's just there. And now what happened with that money is when the state of Michigan paid the credits, all that debt got taken care of right there. They took the money.
Well, and you're absolutely right. There were liens placed upon people's homes. I mean, they're talking now about 8,000 liens. I mean, at that time, there were 23,000 liens placed against people's homes.
23,000.
Yes, and what happened when the state says, okay, we're going to put this $30 million into the credits and that kind of thing, the city of Flint pulled those liens back from the county treasurer's office, and they got the money, or got the money to the extent they had liens. So that was, and I don't know where now, but I can tell you that back then that's what happened. So as we were moving forward, I don't know if I explained this to you before, Shayne, but anytime you sue a governmental entity like the city, the state, they have a defense called governmental immunity, which goes back to the time of English common law. But it's basically you can't sue the city, you can't sue the state, you can't sue the county because we're the government. And when that motion is filed, if the judge doesn't agree that governmental immunity applies, and says no, your case doesn't fall into those categories, then if they want to and they take an appeal, everything else in the case stops. You can't go forward. It's called you're stayed, and you're stopped in your tracks. And that's what happened in the Shears case. And after we did a number of things, including getting the class certified, getting a preliminary injunction, having the city come into compliance with its own ordinances about this water service charge, they went up to the Court of Appeals. And so everything stopped in that case. So we've been stuck on hold. We recently argued on April the 13th of this year in the Shears case, but we don't have a decision yet. In the meantime, however, of course, the Kincaid case came back, and I was allowed to file my first amended complaint. And of course, the city filed a motion to dismiss it, claiming governmental immunity as well as other things. And the judge denied that motion. He said, no, I don't think that governmental immunity applies. The people are only asking for refunds of the money that they were improperly charged, and that's not something that governmental immunity stops. So they've now taken an appeal of that issue as well as other issues up to the Court of Appeals. And in the rules of the Court of Appeals, they have the ability, that court has the ability to say to a case, okay, you're here, but we're going to order you to go to mediation. And then mediation is a process where you have a neutral person, it can be a lawyer. Many times it's a retired judge. And in our case, we do have a retired judge. He's a retired federal judge. And he is going to mediate the case and try to come up with not necessarily a settlement, but a process to settle the case, because right now we're stuck in our various corners and
definitely everyone's filing their motions, so the mediator is going to try to do what's best for both sides and make sure the people get something, because it's in the charter. These are the rules, you have to follow them. If you don't, you have to pay the price.
Well, and the reality is that what we teach our children, you follow the rules.
Exactly.
When we drive down the street, we follow the traffic rules. The city doesn't get a pass on following its own rules, its own ordinances, because it's facing tough financial times.
Exactly. That's the point. You hear so many of these save the city, pay your bill, help the city go, but the city has received a lot of help, and the city's not. We're talking, it's under siege right now. There's so much happening right now for our little city, And it, like everyone always points to, the end of the day, there's the RTAB, there's someone making the final decisions. We as a community just have to wait. It's like a wait and see.
Well, it's a wait and see, but the greater reality is that we didn't ask to be put here.
No.
There was, admittedly, I've looked at the reports from the Treasurer's Office. There was financial mismanagement in the city of Flint, no question about it. In fact, I was reminded of one comment that I'd seen before, but I was working on my brief and I put it in there, is that back in 2006, we had a positive.
Right, I was just going to say that.
Positive $36 million fund balance in water and sewer. 4 years later, it's down to zero.
And we spoke before. Now, and it's supposed to only be for water, sewer, infrastructure, maintenance. That's what our water sewer money's for.
That's what it was supposed to be for, and that's what the report said. Instead of using the money for the restricted purposes, it was being used administratively, by ordinance. The water and sewer fund each could only pay $300,000 a year to the general fund for administrative costs. We were paying multiple millions of dollars.
Right, multiple millions. So, from what I understand, what they ended up doing was, instead of keeping these funds separate, they just had one big general fund and started paying everything out of it.
Well, not quite. They call it the pooled cash fund.
Okay.
And it's like an investment account. You put in, you get a higher rate of interest from the bank or the brokerage house. But the problem was, just as you mentioned, is that when the bill came due, let's say the light bill came due or the gas bill came due, they write a check out of the pooled cash account, as opposed to having the light bill be paid for out of general funds and have the administration for the water plant or the sewers, the repair mains coming out of the water and sewer fund.
Yeah.
And I asked the question to the treasurer. I said, well, how do you track that money? She said, well, you track the money going in because it comes in from the various funds. We track it to the penny. I said, okay, but once it's in the account, how do I know the dollar number one that's coming out is a water dollar, or is it a tax dollar? And I was told that you couldn't do that. So the reality is that yes, you are right. They were taking the money out of the pooled cash account and paying any obligation that came due.
Wow, and that has led us to be the city of Flint, which I seen a number, something like out of Genesee County residents who have the Detroit water or GLEWA, they pay like $17 per unit, and us in Flint, $35. That's what we're facing, and it amazes me. It amazes me. But one other thing that has just gone on with this whole situation is I know you probably aren't social media and the things that go on there, but the other day there was a march and there was some people passing out information saying that they had talked about $1,000 check per resident, and that the current administration was blocking those payments, the settlements and things like that. There was a large amount of people believing that to be true.
I can tell you that from my lawsuits, no such thing is happening.
You didn't? Okay,
I don't know anything about any $1,000 payment per resident for anything.
Okay.
I heard the rumor. In fact, people called it to my attention, and I said, absolutely, that information or misinformation did not come from me. All I said was exactly what I said here today, is that we're going to mediation. The City Council invited by resolution on June 26th the state of Michigan to participate. I believe the state of Michigan declined that invitation, but we are going to mediation, period. We have nobody's talked dollars, nobody's talked anything, and certainly no one's been putting anything in the way of settlement. The whole process is now moving along the track of hopefully being resolved, but certainly nothing like what you just described is going on. It's just not happening.
And that's the important part. There's been so much all thrown at us as residents, as probably administration. This is a completely unique situation. What has happened with the water is from A to Z, from the water rates all the way to the quality.
Yes.
So we have, and that's one of the things I like to do, is try to make sure we get the right information. And the best thing we can do, the only thing we can do here, is continue as a community to pay attention and hold them to what is supposed to be done.
And ask the right questions of the right people and demand that you get straight answers.
Exactly. And I'm going to try to get some more people in here to talk about those situations that are going on. There's a few things, like, for example, we talked about the charter and following the charter. The charter is being reviewed and it's going to be on the ballot.
In August, yes.
There's some very important things that are being discussed. I really like a lot of the community engagement. Some of those things that were taken away by the emergency managers, some of the ethic committees, for ombudsman, things like that, to watch these sort of things.
Right.
Because if that is operating inside the city, that right there could stop something like an illegal rate raise.
Well, and also one of the things that I saw in the summary of the charter changes that I liked a lot is that you can't sue a city because of a violation of its ordinances unless the city says you can.
Right.
And now in this proposed new charter, that's one of the things that they say you have. You have the right as a citizen, if the city is doing something that's improper, you then have a right to bring them into court and hold them accountable. That's huge, and in my view, that's unique, but I like the fact that that's in there.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps because this is our city.
Yes, it is.
And I own my home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to fight for every little piece that I got. And a lot of people feel the same way. They're not going to let go and just move away.
Right.
Even though, like you said, the numbers are outrageous. 23,000 homes with liens, 8,000 now. Land Bank owns 17,000 in Flint. It's just our community at stake here.
And the reality is that, unlike a lot of people who were born and raised in Flint, I moved to Flint.
Right.
I came here in 1978, and I've been here ever since, and I like this community. Raised my family in this community, and I think that we, as Flint citizens, deserve better.
Yeah, yes we do. And that's the thing that I love most about the city is the people.
Yeah.
The people are some of the greatest people I've met ever.
Yeah.
And that's what we continue to do on the world stage, the small stage, the city of Flint. We've been fighting for a while on many different things, so I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon.
Well, it shouldn't stop.
No.
When you stop, that's when they win.
Yes, exactly. And we all see what's happening with the division and who is really benefiting what's going on right now. I hope that these young people are getting involved. We need to get our community back and pay attention.
Right.
So it's good to see you today. Thank you for clearing up that issue because I also have a couple good friends who are involved on a lot of fronts of what's going on. There's so many different angles. A lot of people have to pick up a fight in different areas. So thanks for letting us know what's going on and keeping us posted.
Thank you for having me because when I heard the rumor, I was outdone just because it's wrong to put those kinds of falsehoods in front of people and not expect a reaction from people. Think about it, Shayne. It's been more than 3 years since the switch was made, and it's been 5 years since the rate issue, more than 5 years since the rate issue was brought up, and we have not gotten any relief yet. All we've gotten is continued fight, and people are, I think, hungry for some sort of resolution. They want to believe what they hear because, my gosh, $1,000. I mean, that would do wonders for people. But that's so wrong because it falsely puts hopes of compensation, trying to right the wrongs or starting to right the wrongs in front of people, and that just shouldn't be. Yeah,
it's an incorrect narrative, and it could be very dangerous.
Right.
So thank you so much. I appreciate you. When we find out what's going on, let me know so we can get you back out here.
I'll be happy to tell you when I can. I don't have anything more to tell you other than what I just told you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, and till next time. Thank you.